All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Pima Dems podcast. Much later than we said it would be, but we're here and bringing you a new season and a new segment of shows. Pima County has been kind of the blue wall in Arizona for a long time. A lot of Democratic history happened right here in this county, and we want to start making sure that we document, record that while we have the chance. So today, to kick us off on this series, we are joined by TUSD president, I believe, still.
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
Yes, we change every year.
See, and this is why we got to record the history, folks. A TUSD board member, former mayor of South Tucson, the one and only Jennifer Eckstrom. Jennifer, thanks for coming in today. How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you, Alex, for having me here, and I'm ready to talk about my history in Pima County.
That's kind of perfect. I think that you're the perfect person in a lot of ways to start this off. It's interesting. When I started this job a year and a couple months back, I had a meeting with Adam Kinsey. For those listening who don't know, Adam Kinsey is my predecessor in this role by a decade and some change. And an old friend of mine, of course, of our party here. And I wanted Adam's advice. I sought out as many of my predecessors as I could to get their advice. And Adam said, the smartest thing I did right off the bat was send an email to Jennifer Eckstrom and ask her if she'd meet so we could try to build relations in South Tucson and so I could get her advice. He said, so you should reach out to the current mayor of South Tucson. And coincidentally, I had about 40 minutes beforehand asked if she'd come in and have a very similar meeting. But I want to talk about that because you were elected to be mayor of South Tucson at 18, if I remember correctly. Is that true?
I was elected to the South Tucson City Council at 18. And then I served there for a few years, and then my last 5 years, I was the mayor.
And what is the experience of running for office that young and winning and serving your community? What was that like?
It was tough. I mean, we had just learned that someone was going to not run for their post in South Tucson. And so a council member seat was up. And I actually remember being around the dinner table, and it's my brother, my mom, and my dad, and we're all talking. And I said, well, what if I did it? And everybody just turns to me and looks at me like I'm crazy. And then my dad was like, okay, well, here we go. And so I just had said it just to see what would happen. And my dad took it and was like, let's do this. And so I'm not going to say it was easy because it wasn't easy. My mom had a lot of reservations about me growing up and being in this, you know, political atmosphere at such a young age. She wanted to make sure that I was able to still travel and have friends and go out and have fun. She didn't want me to be older before my time. So I really took that to heart. I wanted to make sure that she was proud of me in doing this political thing, but also she could see me live my life as a young person. And thinking about it now, I mean, she died in 2010. I didn't have a lot of time with her after that. So I was lucky that, we were able to discuss that and she told me what it meant to her and I followed it and I still follow it now. My family is my number one most important thing. And just, running, a lot of people were happy because I've been out in the community. I grew up there, always with my dad at events and my brother. We would go to council meetings. I would mimic what my dad would say as mayor in the car, going on trips. It's those types of things that really make me laugh now. But I had people, lifelong family friends who I loved, who came out against me and were like, hey, what does she know? She's only 18. And that was like a really big kick to the gut. But you learn to deal with it. You learn to let it roll off your back. And I had to really grow a thick skin at 18.
And did you feel that you got to do that kind of young adult growing? Did you feel like the holding the office and serving your community did age you too early, or do you feel like you still got to have that life balance?
Well, I never completed college at that age. I was going to the University of Arizona, but then I just felt like all of these things, school and my job, and then working outside of that, I let school, slip by the wayside, and that was a big mistake. That's something that I do regret because I do feel that I let my political career come first. And then I ended up graduating from Pima in 2013. That was something that I wanted to do for my mom. But I don't see myself going back to the university. But that's okay because I have lifelong experiences that I never would have learned in school.
It's funny. That rings very true to my own experience. Obviously, I've never been an elected official, but I've been organizing and I've been working in politics since I was a teenager. And that's something that people find out and sometimes get a little weird or uncomfortable about. I dropped out of college so many times because of the work I was doing. I can't actually remember the number of times. My joke is that I had a 12-year bachelor's degree across three different institutions, but um, sometimes I really did regret it. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think I still did. I didn't have the conventional college experience, like you were, saying, but there is something about being involved and being, I think, the younger voice in some of these rooms that, that life experience, the things I learned, been far more valuable than what I got from a lot of textbooks. I'm glad to hear that you feel the same.
I do. And I see a lot of young people now who are able to have that school life and being an organizer and being out there in the community balance. And I think that's really great because they've learned how to do that. And I just couldn't learn how to do that.
Well, and I think that our culture inside our party and inside the broader kind of progressive movement is changing in some positive ways. I think, you know, 15-ish years ago, uh, when you and I were around that age, um, possibly longer now. I don't want to admit that. Again, 12 years to get a bachelor's degree, math not my strong suit. But it was a very different world. I mean, the work never ended. Work-life balance kind of was a joke.
Right.
The pay on the professional side was not really enough to live off of, even back in those days, usually. Um, the things are different now. And, a lot of it has come, I think, from young people fighting for it. They figured out ways not only to navigate these systems, but I think sometimes to force, some of those of us that have been around for a little bit, maybe getting a little grouchy, a little older, to be a little more realistic about what it means to have younger people in these spaces. I'm really grateful for that. You talked about your family, and I want to address that because your family is such a kind of a key component in my mind of Pima Dems history and of really, Democratic history in the state of Arizona. So your father is Dan Eckstrom, also a former mayor of South Tucson prior to yourself, a county supervisor. Um, to this day, a giant in politics in the state. What was the experience of growing up with someone like your father? I mean, how did that impact you? Obviously, it directed you towards public service, but what's it like to be in a family that is kind of everyone is dedicated to the cause?
Yeah, I think one of my earliest memories is sitting in our living room, and my brother and I are taking tags off toys. Every year, my dad quietly would buy toys for the kids in our community, and the Pascoyaki tribe would help, and they would host a Christmas party every year. Um, and there we were, like the four of us, just peeling, price tags off these toys and getting them ready to be wrapped, which he then turned into a wrapping party for the community to come and wrap these gifts for these kids in South Tucson to have presents at Christmas. And he never wanted any recognition. And I think that's the key to our family. We go out and do what we do without seeking recognition. And My mom, she was a giant in her own way too. She served the League of Mexican American Women for many years, and we were partners in that too. Um, she was volunteering for most of her adult life doing that, um, working at St. Ambrose School as a nurse. My brother is in, the same way. We just lived a life of service, and so I feel like it was really great to grow up in this family. It wasn't easy. It's never easy. You have people not liking your family name just because it's your family name. Um, the continual work that I do, sometimes it feels like, oh, hey, she didn't get there on her own. She didn't do her own work. Her dad did it for her. That gets really tiring to hear. But again, you have to have a thick skin and you have to let it roll off your back. And unfortunately, it continues to this day, but that's okay. Because I think the things that my dad did for his community, making South Tucson really relevant in Pima County, I don't think would have happened without him.
I think that's an understatement if we're being candid. But yourself as well. Uh, I think there is a legacy in that community of despite how small it is geographically. There is deep history in South Tucson, and it punches above its weight. And I think in terms of its importance in our politics and often our daily life. What were some of the challenges that you found on your time in the council and as mayor of South Tucson? What were the things that you really had to tackle? Are there things you're still proud of? Are there things that you feel like you didn't get to finish?
Oh, yeah, I think about that a lot. I feel like I was just hitting that upward stride when, I made the decision to leave. And really, it was a decision to start a family, a decision to put myself first, and a decision to be married to my husband. And I think if I hadn't have done it then, I'm not sure that I would be here right now. But it was difficult. Starting in that council, I mean, like I said, we had to really fight for everything that South Tucson got. And so I was so proud of the council people that were there with me. They knew me as a little girl. So that was good. And, we had a rapport. They trusted me. I trusted them. And I think it was great. We tackled a lot of things in South Tucson that other communities wouldn't have. Payday loans was a big deal back then. I mean, it still is now, but not to the extent that it was before. But we had 2 payday loan centers in a 1.2 square mile city. We decided that we needed to have an ordinance that stated once these businesses left, we would not have any other payday loan places in South Tucson. I was really proud of that because payday loan centers, they really prey on underserved communities. So I was really proud of that. We worked hand in hand with the John Valenzuela Youth Center. Those kids would come from all over the neighborhood, and they learned about a thing called Y2K Spice. It's something that tobacco shops sell that you can smoke. They did research, and they were like, this is bad for our community. Kids can get a hold of this because these tobacco shops are making it look like it's something that's not harmful. They did a whole presentation, and the city council banned that way before the state of Arizona did. I think that just happened a couple years ago. So I'm really proud of that. We saved 2 TUSD schools in my tenure from shutting down. We really were able to come together as a community to save Ochoa and Mission View schools. And again, it's the kids that were involved who decided to look at how long it would take Ochoa families to walk from Ochoa to Safford, because that's where TUSD wanted to send these kids. And and all the challenges that they had to face. One is just crossing 22nd Street. It's crazy. We were a part of the RTA and PAG. I feel like we were finally being noticed as a place that needed transportation projects done. But unfortunately, that didn't happen in the first RTA election. But South Tucson's getting money now. We were able to have a very great police and fire department. Um, we had we had businesses. We had all of the great things back then. And now, with the economy the way it is and the way government has changed, that's not what South Tucson is now. And I really praise the city council and the mayor for what they're doing to try to keep South Tucson alive.
And the mayor and council of South Tucson are incredible at the moment. I think, again, going back to something we talked about earlier, punching above what people would expect from the size of the community. And again, a legacy that starts probably with your father of making sure that people
Yes.
are being advocated for. It's a city that is surrounded by another city. That's incredibly unique. What are the challenges that come with governing in a community that is essentially, I mean, it is landlocked by another city on all four sides of it?
Right. So that in and of itself is a challenge because you want economic development. You want businesses to come into South Tucson, but you can't expand out. And so it's a unique way of trying to get businesses into South Tucson. And then, of course, we have the problem with having so many social services housed in South Tucson that we get people coming through the city all of the time. And so, they don't live there. They're not invested in their community. And so there's issues with crime. Um, it's a lot to deal with, but I feel like if you had a good council in place, which we didn't see a lot of that. But again, that has changed because South Tucson's not getting the money that they need from the state. And so, they're doing the best that they can right now.
I want to pivot a little to some of the inner political history, and I want to address what might be kind of the elephant in the room, and maybe get to some of the uncomfortable stuff here. The truth is, I started off by talking about how Adam and I both managed to reach out to South Tucson right away, but it is also true that hasn't always been the case. Our county party, our party broadly, has not always looked at these small municipal races. They have not always provided the same levels of support that they do in the bigger cities, to the higher up the ballot races. How how did your father and how did yourself navigate that? And how do we make sure that this isn't a recurring problem um, in your mind, I guess?
Yeah, I think a lot of importance is put on the Pima County Board of Supervisors races, the City of Tucson Mayor and Council races, because they're huge communities. I think South Tucson and the other jurisdictions maybe get lost in the shuffle there. I don't think it was a huge problem for my dad because he may have been told no, but that's not going to stop him from doing what he is going to do. And so he just made a community of people who would support him. And I think that's what's important is if someone tells you no, well, then go and look somewhere else because there's going to be people that tell you yes. And as for me, I mean, I would love to have a community of Democrats that just supported one another. But like anything else, a family, it's difficult and people don't, get along, and that's okay.
And look, it's a big tent. It might be bigger right now than it's been in a long time. But there's I think a concrete difference between getting along and making sure that we are doing the things that we need to do to grow this party, to win elections, and to make sure that when we do have candidates and elected officials, that they're not on their own. The thing that struck me is that one of the things I actually was told early on in my time in Pima County politics was that I should look to see what your dad did, not always what the party did, if I wanted to win. That's something that's stuck with me for many, many years. And there are people like yourself and your father who figure out not only how to do it on their own, but how to thrive and maybe be better at it than anybody else. But if we're not engaging as one broad, unified front as a party, in my opinion, I think that we are leaving, we're leaving our public servants vulnerable in a lot of communities. We are leaving offices that we could win up to Republicans or other parties. But when we do get people like your family, people that really fight and figure it out and maybe learn to do it better than the party itself, I think we're also losing an opportunity to get that knowledge. We're losing an opportunity to learn how to do things better. And I hope that by the end of my tenure here, maybe we have some type of continuous plan to make sure that we are, and not just South Tucson. We are fielding a full slate of candidates this year for Marana mayor and council for the first time in many, many years. We've had success with candidates out there recently. We flipped a seat last year. We flipped a seat a cycle before that. It's doable, but they need support. We've got to build some type of structure to make sure that, even when times are lean, in my opinion, that we are representing the entire county and not just the swing district that has everyone excited this year, not just the biggest race on the ballot. Do you have any thoughts on how we as a community and a party could do that moving forward?
Yeah, I think we're all here for, one reason, and that's to make sure that we elect people who want to do right by other people and not have an agenda of, oh, well, I'm going to do this because this person told me to. Democrats really do want to do well for others, and they want to provide for others, and they want others to do well themselves. And so I think the messaging, I think going out door to door, I think we're starting to do that. And I think a grassroots campaign, it sounds silly, but you really need to go talk to your neighbor who will then talk to their neighbor and then their nana and tata and then their children. It's really a word of mouth type of situation that, we really need to buckle down in and have a great messaging. I think that's also another big priority that we should be looking at.
Absolutely. And I promised I'd only keep you here for about a half hour. I know you're a busy person, you got things to do, so I've got 3 quick questions to wrap it up. The first is there a story from your time on the South Tucson Council that you'd like to share? Could be important, could be heavy, could be funny, but something that happened that you want people to know about.
I will say that the John Valenzuela Youth Center kids, now these kids were made up of like teens, like they were all ages. They're like, we want the mayor to come and talk and I want to know about her life. So I get there and I'm like, how am I going to talk to these kids? Like, yes, like I'm only a few years older than them, but still. And so I just start talking, about living in this community, about being proud of where I'm from, and that not everybody understood my community because I went to South Point Catholic High School. A girl from the South Side didn't really quite fit in. And so I was telling these kids, I'm like, it was hard, but, I got through it. And then they're like, Miss, can you answer some questions? And I'm like, sure, of course. And then they're like, did you ever drink? Did you ever do drugs? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be honest with these kids. Did you ever get in a fight? And I was like, I never did drugs. You know, I may have gotten in a fight a couple times. But like that honesty really showed them that, okay, this mayor is going to tell me the truth. And so I can trust her moving forward. And so that's why I think we built a really great relationship with those kids. And, you know, they were like, okay, well, if she didn't do drugs, then I don't need to do that. I can, you know, do something better for myself. And I will tell them, I'm like, you know, it was hard, but you just have to think about what is good for you. And so I always remember that because then they told the director, Gloria Hamlets, who has since moved on, and she's now working for PO but they're like, she's a badass mayor. And so I always remember that because I told the truth.
My second question is going to be very similar.
Okay.
But is there a story from your childhood before your time in office, from your dad's public service, that you'd want to share?
Yeah, I remember me and my brother, like, we're hand in hand with my dad, and we're walking down this desert. And I'm like, I knew it was important because I knew TV stations were there, community was gathering, and we're just walking down this desert. And it was like the news was there to hear from community leaders about the TCE project and what had happened to the people living there with the water being contaminated and the health issues that they had. And my dad, I remember him getting up and talking, and I was just like, wow, like, that's my dad. Like, he's trying to help these people. And, you know, I'm like holding my brother's hand, and we're just like looking up at him. And I was amazed, but I can't even remember how old I was. I must have been really young, but I remember him doing that and him taking my brother and I out there. And, you know, we were able to see how contaminated water affected these people on the south side.
That is an incredible story.
Yeah.
Third and quickest question.
Okay.
Depending on your answer.
Okay.
What's the future hold for you?
I'm a mom to a 24-year-old who's going to graduate from the University of Arizona next semester. I'm a mom to an 11-year-old who's going to be in middle school. She's a superstar, sports and just in everything. And I'm so proud of my kids. And my husband is a great person who also believes in community. I think right now what the future holds for us is me continuing to be on the TUSD school board and really trying to promote the great public education that we offer this community. And that's my future, my kids and my husband and my family, and just trying to continue this Eckstrom legacy of being there for community.
Well, I think on behalf of Democrats across Pima County, both past, present, and future, we thank you and your family, and we thank you for coming here and being the first test subject for this new series on our podcast and this new season. Again, I am Alex Cack. I'll keep saying the same thing. I'm sorry you didn't get Eric this time. You're stuck with me, but we were so lucky to have the one and only Jennifer Eckstrom here today. Thank you again for coming in, Jennifer.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you to the Pima Dems for having this opportunity for me.